everybody, welcome to my channel and another art journal tutorial. With this one, we are going to build a page by using elements from a napkin and a stencil. But first, let's flip through some of the napkins that I recently got from Denny's Napkins. I love that brown one. You can paint it. Love the colors of this one, and the size of that bird is going to work great on some larger pages. The snowman, I think that's Cosmos. Love the colors. Not a horse fan, but I love that color in the background. These are bright colors. Lots of elements that I could cut out from this one. That one might actually work for the Pantone color of the year. It's periwinkle. I'll have to set that aside. This one, which we end up using, another deer one. Not a fan of the deer head, but I do like the roses down below. Another rose one, vintage, under the sea. Good selection. Lots of miniature horse. This would make some nice tags, especially for a horse lover. Love angels, so I definitely will be using this. This owl is absolutely a work of art. Love the background as well. And, oh, well, we can always use more butterflies. So all of those are available at Ninny's Napkins. There is a new coupon code for 2022, so go check that out. So this napkin is called Woodland Deer and Moose, and it has two of the moose and two of the deer, which I love. Now you could use each quadrant by itself, but I have a plan to combine them. And when I'm starting with a napkin, when I start, I usually pull out both sizes or the various sizes of substrates that I have. So I have my 7x10 art journal and my 9x12. And so the first thing I need to do is cut off some of the excess, and that allows me to play with the elements and design my own page. I can do that. I can flip it so it goes on the, if I just did one, it would work well with the 7x10 page. If I combined the two of them, I could stretch it to the other one. And then I have this snowy cabin stencil from the Crafter's Workshop. It's one of their sign stencils, but I love that evergreen. So I'm thinking maybe I'm going to combine them. So I'm going to remove more of the excess from this napkin. Okay, remember earlier you saw me remove the two extra plies, and now I'm just water cutting with my liner brush a lot of the excess. Now right here, this looks like the excess is white, and I thought it was whiter than it was. You'll see what my problem is later. And I thought, oh, it's just going to go all translucent, so I don't need to worry too much about getting excess off. But typically, I like getting a lot more of the excess off. I just find it's cleaner. It gives me the look that I want. But, do you. Like, if that doesn't bother you, then do what you can. So little by little, I'm playing with it, cutting off parts that it's like, okay, I don't want that. So I'm thinking, oh, if I raise the moose up and the deer down low, I like how that swoops across the page. I like the look. Here I'm just getting rid of any straight edges because I don't like that look. And more, as I go and I get an idea of where I want. Now that I want that moose to face the other way. And you can do that with a napkin. When you glue it the opposite way, it will not be quite as bright, but quite honestly, close enough. So here I want the moose to face the deer. I don't want them going in the same direction. I just want some variation. So once again, now that I know what I want, I'm removing even more of the excess. Another reason not to remove more until you're sure is the napkin gets a little bit more fragile. So as you're auditioning it, you want a little bit more stability. So if I put them like that and I use this snowy cabin, I could put a tree down on the bottom right-hand corner and a group of trees in the top left-hand corner. And I want to add some texture, not just pattern. I could just stencil that on and that would be fine, but I also wanted to add some texture. So I'm going to use modeling paste through the stencil, or that part of the stencil. So now that I know where I want to go, and I don't want to get the modeling paste really underneath the moose or the deer, I'm putting some of the modeling paste on a key card and pushing it through the stencil. I find the key card is the best way for me to get a good modeling paste through a stencil. If you haven't tried TCW modeling paste, it is super easy to work with. I have the most success with it. So if you struggle, you may want to try, all modeling pastes are not created equal. Some have more or less body, and you got to find the match for how you do it. So I'm just eyeballing where I want this one, and then I am just putting some more modeling paste through that part of the stencil. So you can see with this sign stencil, I'm not using the cabin. I'm not using the entirety of the stencil. I'm just using those evergreens. And I know that I will use that part of that stencil a lot. Any kind of woodland theme. Remember, you're the artist, so you decide how to combine elements from your stash, be they magazines, stamps, stencils, um, napkins. We take what we get from these other artists and we build on it and make it our own. So now that the modeling paste is dry and I've removed and I've edited even more of that napkin, I'm putting a coat of fluid matte medium underneath it, lifting up the napkin, and then gluing the other half. This is my best way of doing it. Now you can see there's that bluish halo around the deer. Remember, I thought that was white and it was going to go translucent. It's not quite white, it's blue. And I'm not exactly happy about that, but we're going to do a workaround on it. And quite honestly, I am planning to put some blue into the background, so it's not as big of a deal in this application. But in some others, it might be more so. So I've got a few other elements, and I'm just going to put those in my stash. They may end up in my accidental art journal. Now I'm taking some gesso and a brush, and I am just dabbing the gesso where that halo was, where the napkin met the paper. Now my paper, I did not gesso it. It was raw paper. So I will be doing this where the napkin meets the paper, and then I will be putting a coat of gesso on all of the paper, including on top of the modeling paste, to prepare it to take whatever color medium I'm going to use. And here I'm just putting the gesso on top of the modeling paste. Raw paper will take your color medium differently. So today I'm using my Neocolor 2s. These are water-soluble crayons. They are water activated. They are highly pigmented. And, I've had these and I haven't used them probably for 2 years. I recently dug them out and made some tags and I loved it. And I'm mixing a couple shades of blue. So my plan here is to have the sky, or what I'm calling the sky, to be darker, and then it's going to be lighter and lighter and lighter as it becomes snow with just a hint of blue. So you see the blue halo around my napkins wasn't as big a deal. And you can just keep going back and adding more color till you get the shade and the tones that you like. And as with the acrylic paint, I like mixing two shades of it or using one shade with white gesso. So I put very little of the Neocolor 2 down below where I'm going to make it the snow. Now the Neocolor 2, while it is water activated, it is a little bit less finicky than some water activated color mediums. Meaning, unless you rub it, you won't necessarily reactivate it. So it's a little more forgiving. But because it is, I have to be careful that I'm not adding water once I have everything exactly how I want. The benefit is when it's water activated, you can go in and change it. Now, for whatever reason, I decided to grab my iridescent medium, and I am putting that mostly on the snow part of this page. Again, I have not used my iridescent medium in a long time. And here I'm using it, I'm just watering it down, but you can make iridescent colors out of every color that you have by mixing the medium with the color. So I'm glad that you can see a little bit of that shimmer. Now, I didn't have in my Neocolor 2s, I didn't have the green that matched the colors, the greens that were in the trees from the napkins. And I want everything to work together. So I'm using Hooker's Green, my acrylic paint, and I mix it with gray. It got a little too gray for me, so I'm wiping it off. And I'm just mixing that in. Now, the modeling paste is doing a great job. It's catching in the nooks and crannies, and it's building its own highlights and lowlights in there. I am not being overly precise at all when I'm doing this. I'm adding a little bit of that green into the napkin trees. Because again, even though these elements come from different places, I want them to share enough commonality that they look like they belong together. I'm adding a little bit of black, and the reason for that is in the napkin trees, there's some black or gray in there. And again, I want everything to work together. So I'm just playing with the colors, adding and deleting and as I go. I'm really happy with the top left-hand one. The one on the bottom, that's going to take a little bit of work, but it's the process. You start and you do, and then you add and you tweak, and then you keep going. I could have added two deer on this page or two moose. I wasn't happy with the brown that was like the shadows of the trees, so I grabbed the Neocolor tubes and I'm adding blue. And that's just pushing back that brownish color. It's still there, and I end up stamping my sentiment on it to push it back even further. Now I'm just adding some blue to the snow. Now I could do a wash of acrylic color on the moose and the deer, but you can also do the same with your watercolor. You just want to make sure that the napkin is fully adhered down and there's a good coat of gel medium or clear gesso on top so that it's non-porous and you can put it on. So here I'm using the Neocolor 2s. I've got a couple shades of brown and then I use a little bit of the black. So even though when the moose I reversed it, remember I flipped it and glued it upside down or backwards. Um, Really the colors aren't any different because I've added this wash of color. You just start and then you just keep going. You do add something and then look and add something and look. Adding a little bit of the Neocolor to the black to the trees to add more shadows. This just kind of ended here, so I thought I'm just going to add a little bit more green. I didn't grab my modeling paste. I could have stenciled more, but I thought I'll just add some color. And I like it a little bit better there. I think what I could have done is glued one of the trees on there from the napkin. And I'm just kind of stenciling it on. And I think, oh, what if I take some black and stencil it on? Now, I'm not trying to line up where the modeling paste is. I just want to get some of the black on here, some low lights. And I go this, and I'm liking what I see. But then I get, I guess, kind of lazy, and I realize that, you know what, I can just take that makeup sponge with a little bit of black and rub it gently over top, and I can darken all the green. And this just brought these trees to life in my mind. It just made the world of difference. Now I want to add some shadows and like hints of snowbanks. So I'm using that stencil and they have the markings in the snow and I'm using some light blue permanent. I think I come in and do some with gray as well. This just adds movement to the snow and maybe a little depth. Here I'm using the gray. I just didn't want it to be too terribly flat. And while I'm doing this, I'm thinking, what can I add to the sky? Because it's very flat too. I want to add a little bit more interest to it. Adding some white highlights. Then I think, oh, I'm going to add a little bit of snow. The snow's falling. It's going to be on the Christmas on all these evergreens. And again, this, because we have the shadows underneath and now the white, it just looks. I could have used the iridescent medium and that would have shimmered. And then I do the same with this other bunch of evergreens. And again, I'm not being particular. I'm not being precise. I find when I do the overpainting, just to relax and do it. Adding a little bit of white to the napkins. I grab the Sacred Geometry stamp and I'm adding some of this stamping to the sky. Kind of working around where the napkin and the stenciling is. And I'm stamping and overstamping. I just want some pattern and interest in the sky. So I just keep doing, I'm just pressing it in acrylic paint and just stamping it, just so it's not flat. And then I'm taking a brush, even before it's dry, and kind of smudging it a little bit to make it not so precise. You can also take some of the Neocolor 2s at this stage and rub it on top, and that just kind of pushes it back. It's there, but it's not so forward. And now we're going to make it snow. I'm going to splatter some white. The napkin had little flecks like that in it, so I'm just incorporating an element that was already there. And then I'm mixing up some Prussian blue, and I'm going to splatter with it as well. And then giving that a good dry. Taking the Neocolor 2, and I'm going to edge the page, but I was thinking I should be able to smudge it, but remember, you have to water activate it. So I'm doing that, and this is giving a frame of blue. I'm also putting some of that shading where the sky meets the ground. Didn't feel that there was enough edging, so I grabbed my woodless charcoal pencil, and this I can smudge, but then I discovered, and I don't know if I ever knew this, when you wet it, it's water activated as well. And there you can see how wonderful it just kind of came to life. It gets really dark. So I'm going to have to remember that and use that. I'm adding some shadows under the trees, under the deer. And then I'm just roughly sketching around the moose and the deer. And I'm leaving this dry. I'm not activating it. I'm not smudging it. Now, if this was a canvas and I was going to varnish it, I would have to spray this with a workable fixative before I brushed on wet varnish. People often ask, do you seal your work? No, not in my art journal. I typically don't. I would only seal it and use a varnish if it's on a canvas or wood panel. I decided to stamp the sentiment with my little wooden letters, wooden letter stamps, and I'm just stamping the words, all is calm. This is a beautiful wintry scene. I'm stamping with acrylic paint and I'm cleaning the stencil or the stamps once I am done with them. And you can see the texture of the modeling paste on that, on those evergreen trees. I absolutely love it. So I challenge you, look through your napkins or your focal images in magazines, and then look at your stencils. Do you have any that mix and match that you can take and build your own thing? Here are some close-ups. Thank you for joining me. Give me a thumbs up. Follow me on Instagram at Creative Katie. Until next time, go get creative.